Hi, my name is Yesenia. I'm going to talk about the biology fields of study and branches of biology, how life started in the planet. Biology is the study of life and living organisms. Branches of biology. The field of biology is divided into many different areas of study. Some examples of these groups are anatomy, physical structure of animals, biochemistry, chemistry of living things, botany, structure and function of plants, cytology, structure and function of cells, ecology, interactions of organisms and their environment, ethology, animal behavior in natural environments, genetics, hereditary, immunology, body's defense against diseases, microbiology, microscopic organisms, paleontology, ancient life, taxonomy, classification of organisms, zoology, structure and function of animals. Fields of biology study. Main group of living things, bacteriology, microbiology, zoology, structure and function, physiology and histology, change and development, embryology, genetic evolution, applied biology, biotechnology, living things and their environment, ecology, environmental science, biogeography. Earth is estimated to be about 4.5 billion years old. Some scientists think life appeared the moment our planet's environment was stable enough to support it. The earliest evidence for life on Earth comes from fossilized mats of cyanobacteria called stromatolites in Greenland that are about 3.7 billion years old. Ancient as their origins are, these bacteria are already biologically complete. They have cell walls protecting their protein-producing DNA, so scientists think life must have begun much earlier. In fact, there are hints of life in even more primeval rocks. 4.5 billion-year-old zircons from Western Australia contain high amounts of a form of carbon typically used in a biological process. But despite knowing approximately when life first appeared on Earth, scientists are still far from answering how it appeared. Many theories of the origin of life have been proposed, but since it's hard to prove or disprove them, no fully accepted theory exists, said Diana Northup, a cave biologist at the University of New Mexico. Today, there are several competing theories of how life arose on Earth. Some question whether life began on Earth at all. A certain said that it came from a distant world or the head of a falling comet or asteroid. Some even say life may have arisen here more than once. More scientists agree that life went through a period when RNA was the head uncle molecule, while then life took its nascent stage. According to this RNA world hypothesis, RNA was molecule for primitive life and only took a backseat when DNA and proteins, which perform their jobs much more efficiently than RNA, developed.
First, I am going to talk about the characteristics of living things. There are 8 characteristics of living things, which are organization, genetic code, response to stimuli, homeostasis, metabolism, growth, reproduction, and adaptation, ability, and evolution. In organization, life on Earth is characterized by being organized and hierarchized in levels in which the lower ones give sustenance to the superiors. The genetic code is a sequence of nitrogenous bases that combine to produce words in a language understandable to all living beings. Next, we have response to stimuli, which says that living beings can respond to different stimuli, such as light, sound, temperature, chemical substances, among others. The homeostasis refers to the set of self-regulation phenomena that lead to the conservation of steadiness. On metabolism, living beings use energy to maintain homeostasis. They must take components from their external environment, transform, and use them. In growth, all living beings increase their volume. On reproduction, individuals must reproduce themselves to perpetuate their species. And finally, we have adaptation, ability, and evolution. That is where species settled on the planet are forced to adapt and evolve in order to survive. Now I'm going to talk about the differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells comprise archaea and bacteria, while eukaryotic cells include animals, plants, fungi, and protozoa. The main difference between eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells is that eukaryotics have an endomembrane system, meanwhile prokaryotes doesn't. Also, eukaryotes are usually larger. The prokaryotic cells are unicellular. This is because to survive, each cell is constrained to do everything it needs. And the eukaryotic cells are multicellular organisms, in which there are specialized cells. Also, prokaryotic cells are simpler than eukaryotes.
The cell. The cells are complex thermodynamic structures that use energy to maintain the conditions that make possible their existence. There are three characteristics that every type of cell needs to have. The first one is a plasma membrane that defines the shape of every cell and contains the cytoplasms. The second one is the cytoplasm. It contains the organelles of the cells. And the last one is the DNA. It is all the information that the cell needs to survive. When a cell doesn't have a defined nucleus, it is called prokaryotic. And the cells that have a defined nucleus are called eukaryotic. The eukaryotic can be classified as an animal cell or a plant cell. They share some organelles like the cytoskeleton, the lysosome, and the mitochondria. The main difference is that the plant cells have an organelle called chloroplast. It is the one that gives the color to the plants. The history of microscopes. The observation of tiny things began with the investigation of magnifying lenses. Two or more lenses combined made what we know nowadays as a composite microscope. Zacharias Janssen invented the first compound microscope in 1590. It was only a tube with an objective and an eyepiece lens. The second one was invented by Galileo Galilei in 1609. The third one was invented by Robert Hooke in 1655. He discovered the soul with a microscope. In 1685, Anton van Leeuwenhoek created his own microscope that increases 2,000 times the images. Until the 18th century, the technique of illuminating the microscope samples improved, and in the next century, it began to be a handy tool and be used in medical fields.
There are 6 types of cell transportation. The most important ones are passive and active. And passive involves the transport of molecules from regions of high concentration to regions of low concentration. No energy is used in this process. And then there is active transportation, which involves the transport of molecules from regions of low concentration to regions of high concentration. Energy is needed for this type of transport. Then there is diffusion, which is the tendency of molecules to spread from regions of high concentration to regions of low concentration. This movement is due to a concentration gradient. This is the difference in concentration between two different regions. Then there is osmosis, which is the diffusion of water across a selectively permeable membrane from a region of high water concentration to a region of low water concentration. Then there is facilitated diffusion, which is similar to simple diffusion, but it involves molecules diffusion quickly across a cell membrane through transport proteins. Facilitated diffusion only works from high to low concentration. A transport protein binds to the substance on one side of the cell membrane and then releases it on the other side. Then there is endositis, which is substances entering the cell become enclosed by an impacting of the cell membrane to form a vesicle. Then there is exocytosis, which is the movement of a substance out of a cell via vesicles, which is the opposite of endositis.
So first I'm going to be talking about homeostasis. Homeostasis is the ability that our body has to control our internal organisms, like our internal systems. And a really great example of this, it's when your body controls your temperature, like when you have a fever, it's because your systems are getting too cold, or when you start sweating, it's because your systems are starting to get too hot. So that's a way to control the temperature. Then there are two types of homeostasis: the positive feedback, that it's like a cycle that will only stop when one of these breaks. And a real common example is when a baby is about to be born. The all the process of it, it's like the example of positive feedback. Now there's the negative feedback, that is like the case of the temperature. So your body get too cold and you'll get a fever, and then your body will start sweating because if it's too hot, and then you'll be too cold again, and then you'll get a fever, and then your body will start sweating to lower the temperature, and it's like a never-ending cycle. So now I'm going to be talking about the main organ systems we have in our bodies. So like there are 12 main systems, like the most important, but I'm just going to talk about six. That are the cardiovascular one, that is the one that transports the blood to our heart and back to our body. There's also the digestive one, that is the one that processes food and absorbs nutrients. There's the muscular one, that is the one in charge of us moving everywhere. The nervous one, that is the one that transports information and directions to all of the other systems. There's the reproductive one, that is the one in charge of us being able to reproduce. That is one of the basic characteristics of living things. There's the respiratory one, that is the one that delivers air to our lungs. So it's one of the ones that keep us alive the most. And there's the immune system that helps us not die because of a single bacteria, a minor bacteria. So it's the one that protects us against all the diseases.
Hi, my name is Vicente Lopez Espinosa, and I'm gonna talk about the next topics. First of all, the health and sickness. Everything in our body is finally regulated by a mechanisms that allow us to maintain homeostasis and health. Since a human being is born, and with the passage of time, he perceives a series of change in his body, emotion, and social needs. Currently, health is affected by industrialization, automation, and acceleration of pace of life. Health, well, now let's talk about the next topic. Health in adolescence is a stage that is characterized by transition between childhood and adulthood, which implies physical, cognitive, and physiological changes. This stage is currently between the age of 11 and 19 years. This stage can have emotional, physical, and sexual changes during those years. Also, the teen years can have problems like drugs or alcohol that can make problems in his body in the future. Well, now the third topic, that is healthy lifestyle. This is important for human being because if we don't get care about it, we can have serious problems like diabetes or have the risk of cardiovascular disease. What we can do to prevent these problems? Well, we can go outside and run every day, may exercise in our house, eat healthy and prevent disease. Those are the things that we must do. The next ones are those who we don't have to do, like eat one thing only, never move or don't do any exercise, and consume alcoholic beverage may cause a problem in our body in some future. If we follow those rules, we can have a long life without issues or problems that can kill us.